Welcome, everybody. I am joined by Luke, and we are here to talk uncut sheets. So, this is a really interesting topic that we've kind of broached a little bit through some mail days, some stuff I've gotten previously, but we want to talk about uncut sheets, which are the giant sheets of cards. Which, if you didn't know, that's how cards are packed up and sliced in a factory. And Luke has been collecting them, so we're going to talk about sort of an overview, everything you need to know about uncut sheets. We got a little slide deck. Luke, thanks so much for joining us here today.
Yeah, thanks, Matt. Thanks for having me on. This is something that I've been pretty passionate about for the last like 6 or so months as I was on paternity leave and adding to the collection, as you can see behind me.
I
So
love your museum behind me. I see a
yeah, we got to. I'll show
cartoon
you the
uncut
museum. That's the first slide here.
sheet. Okay, well, we have a slide deck because, like I said, oh
Great.
my God.
Awesome. Yeah. So we're recording this on the 28th of December, as you can see at the bottom. I'm a social studies high school teacher, so I'm used to putting together slide decks and stuff. So I wanted to show you, this is what currently I'm sitting at, right? Like I'm at that couch with Death Star 2 behind me. But if you can see, like my current basement setup goes from like Premiere all the way to the left, then A New Hope. And then I have these like question marks for Hoth and Dagobah, Jabba's Palace, Endor non-foil, Endor foil, Reflections 1, Special Edition, Death Star 2, Tatooine, the Theed Palace Uncommon Common sheet, and then Reflections 3. I do have a enhanced Cloud City sheet in a like location that's kind of back in the corner. So this is something that I've put a lot of time and effort into and learned a lot about. I do like previously, like 15 years ago, I finished the English language master set and I kind of just dipped off and stopped collecting Star Wars CCG, which I really loved doing in high school and college. And then this became like, recently the next thing for me because we have this newly finished basement, as you can see. We had all this wall space. It's kind of like a game room feel anyways, and my wife was really understanding, being like, yeah, like this seems cool, like you enjoy this, go ahead, like let's make this what you want it to look like. So yeah, let's talk about uncut sheets. I'm really happy to do a deep dive to this.
Yeah, so I just want to say I would love to guest bedroom here. This is a great looking room. This is just got a
For any
slide
Star Wars
there as
fan,
well.
yeah, this is gonna keep you busy to look at all these. Yeah.
All right, well let's get into it a little bit. Um,
Awesome. Yeah, so uncut sheets of cards, just so you all know, right? They are produced by the card manufacturers, and that's like how the actual decks are made, or like the packs are made. Like there's like a rare sheet, uncommon sheet, and a common sheet, and there's like all produced and split up into packs. Okay, so when Decipher, who made Star Wars CCG, like made different expansion sets or whatever, they ordered packs of cards, but they also ordered uncut sheets. Like, and these are like two sort of separate things. Those uncut sheets were given away as like prize support, and Decipher originally did this, and then also that is currently been done by the Players Committee. The Players Committee also uses uncut sheets of different types as donation incentives, and we'll talk a little bit about that as well. So, like, donate some money to the Players Committee, and you can get potentially an uncut sheet as part of the donation incentive. Second thing there is the uncut sheets do have value, but probably not as much value as the actual individual cards. If you were to actually have the ability to cut up the sheets professionally, which is just not really possible to do by yourself, then yeah, you probably make a fair amount of money from getting mint cards out of the sheets. But the sheets themselves are not supposed to be like manipulated by someone that's other than like a professional manufacturer.
Yeah, and I think just to really emphasize that point, like you need like some manufacturing grade material. Like you need a factory for this. It's not something you use a paper cutter for. Like
Yeah.
it'll just end up. And we have a couple examples of what these look like. And some people do
Yep.
this in other card communities to create weird uncut, misaligned cards, which is cool. But ultimately, like it's really hard to cut these cards out.
And that really is like number three. There's just like no value to the, like you would be able to tell right away if someone tried to cut up an uncut sheet and sell you the card. Like, and again, Matt and I can show you some examples, but yeah, just not possible. Fourth item, all the uncut sheets do have the same exact layout, so there's no like difference between like Tatooine, Coruscant, and Feed, like with alternate image sheets. Like all the rare sheets have alternate images in exactly the same place. So it's like if you have a rare Coruscant sheet, it's exactly the same every single time, is what I'm trying to say. Like that's because it's just easier for manufacturing if they're all in the same sort of place. The other last thing I would say is that uncut sheets are just hard to store. They take up a lot of space. even in the shipping tubes. Like, so where are you going to put that? It's also hard to display. You know, I'm fortunate that I have like all this basement wall space, but you have to be able to pay for custom framing. So it's sort of like an unattractive asset for a lot of people. Like, I've talked to many people who are in, like, had Uncut Sheets just in their storage basement or whatever, and we're like, well, how much do you want for this? Like, make me an offer, right? Like, I don't really need this. It's been in my back, whatever, because I don't really have the space to frame this. And so that's, I think, an interesting part too.
Well, I think there's like this like balancing act. Like if you have wall space in your house, like do you want to make it into a museum or do you want to have other stuff up, pictures of
Yeah.
friends, family, art, whatever? And like I have one uncut sheet, but I don't think I could get away with having like 15 around. I also don't have a basement, so
Yeah, it takes like a special like area, and it kind of worked out perfectly for it to be this area because we have obviously, like, you know, lots of pictures of our family on other
yeah,
floors of
yeah.
the house. So yeah.
So I mean that's one thing about collecting. You realize that like space is valuable, and that objects that take up a lot of it are a little less attractive. Like
Yeah,
I
and
do
uncut sheets definitely
boxes.
take up a lot of space, no matter how you do it.
Yeah.
Like, either you have the tubes or you have the gigantic posters.
All right. Well, let's keep moving along. So a little bit about the market here. So
Yeah, we talked about this on the latest graded and sealed market update for quarter 4 that Matt hosts. That's super awesome. That I really enjoyed appearing on. So I'm just gonna run through this really quick. I mean, some of the sheets from Star Wars CCG are like really easy to find. They're just on eBay. You can buy it now whenever. They kind of have a set value. Others are very, very challenging to find. Trust me, I spent many, many hours trying to track down sheets that are not on eBay. So I mean, just really quickly, like Premiere, Light Side, Dark Side, those are about 85 each. A New Hope Light Side is just about 50. Jabba's Palace, you have to get both at the same time, about 60. Endor Foils is 60 for Light Side, 40 for Dark. Special Edition, Light Side's anywhere from $15 to 200. And I wanted to touch on that for just a second. The market for an uncut sheet, I think, is really like elastic, to use like a social studies economist term, meaning like there's a few people that'll pay a bunch for them, but very little. And so, like, the Light Side Special Edition sheet has been on auction from this seller in United Kingdom. There's probably been like 10 sold, and the first 2 went for like $200, and I was one. I was like, oh my gosh, there's a Light Side Special Edition sheet. Like, let me get that. And recently, they've sold for like $15, $20, $17. Like, there's not enough demand. Like, there's some people like myself, and maybe this is sort of like Japanese Hoth Dark Side, right? Like, where there's some
right,
people
right.
searching that are going to pay a bunch of money, but then once that drops off, like, maybe not that amount is there. So that's Special Edition. And then Death Star 2 Light Side is about 350 on eBay. All of the rest are very hard to find. Undetermined value, they just don't appear really on eBay. The last year or so, I haven't seen really any. I do think the value is hard to determine. So an Endor non-foil rare sheet is probably $100 to $150. I think maybe like a Reflections 2 foil sheet could get 1,000, or Reflections 3, if that even exists. The other 2 that we'll mention, Cloud City, the rare sheets there, nobody has seen a layout of that since, the Decipher days, or there's no, even the Players Committee doesn't have any sort of images of that. And the Reflections 3 foil sheets also like potentially just don't exist in uncut form. And then the last thing, you'll see this in the video, but if anyone has a Light Side Hoth rare sheet, I will make it worth your while. I don't care if it has a dark side back or light side back. There, we'll talk about the difference. That is my number 1 main sheet. And then Dagobah Dark Side Rare is another sheet I'm looking for too. I really have 2 left.
All right. Well, everyone, I'll leave my emails in the channel info. Feel free to reach out to me, and I can put you in touch with Luke if you have this stuff.
Yeah. I'm
See
not
those
super
walls.
confident, but I thought I might as well throw it out there.
Yeah, no, it's good. I mean, you never know what people have. I still think one of the wonders of the world is the American garage.
Oh, it totally
What
is.
people have, it's like the 8th wonder of the
Like
world.
American pickers, like every
The strangest stuff exists in people's garage. I just want to note of all of these, I think that the Endor foil light side dark side is probably the most, for me, like the most interesting thing that I'd want to stick up, right? As far as being iconic.
It's the most bang for your buck, and I'll talk about that as well. Like, those are very easy to find, readily available, free shipping from Wild Things Games in Salem, Oregon. 60 for light sides, 40 for dark, and I'll talk about exactly how much it cost me to frame those. So if you're interested in an uncut sheet, that's probably the most bang for your buck.
Yeah, and it's interesting that the sort of earlier sets. So Dagobah and Hoth and Cloud City, like I'm just curious why. I mean, maybe all the sheets were cut up, or
Maybe, or they
um,
just didn't order that many sheets, like, or yeah, I don't know why some just like some there's just so many more of. I don't know why that is. That's sort of a
it
mystery. I
makes
think
sense
some.
for a bit of the later sets, right? Because I have to imagine that perhaps like you just had a pallet of sheets. It's like we got to turn off the printers. We don't have time to like get
Mhm.
this out the door before we lost the license. But the earlier stuff, it's a bit curious because I think Premiere is widely available. So
Yep.
or A New Hope. So it's yeah, random. Why Java's Palace but not Cloud City? I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah, it's really sort of random. So this is something new. I didn't talk about this previously. I want to talk a little bit about framing, and this is like a real big turnoff for people. And like when they buy a sheet, like yeah, it's going to cost a lot of money to to frame it, right? And so we all know this. Like if you go in person with a piece of art to a custom framing, whether it's like Michael's or whatever else, like it's going to cost you a lot. I have framed lots of artwork in my house and used in-person custom framing for some of my pretty high value, high visibility stuff. That's usually like 3 times the price of online custom framing. And if like, it's really valuable, I want to protect it, like I really want a display piece, like, yeah, of course, like I'm willing to definitely do that. For Star Wars CCG sheets, like these aren't that valuable. We're talking about like hundreds of dollars instead of thousands. And so, I'm happy to use like an online framer. And the one that I go to is frameiteasy.com. I'm not, I don't get paid for them or anything. I just thought like,
We
if
get
you use
paid
this promo
nothing from you.
code, right? Like you buy multiple frames at the same time, you save on shipping costs. I have this go-to frame called Derby and Black Grain, which I have one right in here that I thought I'd show. It's just like a pattern that is sort of, yeah,
Oh, so
like this sort of woodish frame, right? It's kind of not super thick if you look at my hand, right? So, yeah, sort of like a decent size frame. Here we go. Yeah. So like, there's like a little texture to it. But that's sort of my go-to. That is, it looks nice. Like it looks like decent, and you can see the grain pattern on the side there, right? So it's like great, but not custom framing. And so that's my go-to. I don't pay for any additional matting. I don't use anything aside the clear acrylic color or the clear acrylic cover. It's pretty lightweight. I do try to make sure, like, the reason why these are framed in my basement is that they're not going to get sunlight at any point of the day. I also have like an industrial dehumidifier down here, but even that, like, I realize that this is not likely to last forever. This is more for fun for, I don't know, 10, 20 years to have up. Because artwork, as you know, like, yeah,
yeah.
eventually it's going to fade.
I mean, we've created probably the coolest guest room you could ever have. So
Yeah, yeah. Let's go on to the next slide.
okay.
So here's what I'm going to do real quick. I'm going to try to hit these one by one, kind of go fast here in terms of each set. So each of these sets that I've been able to track the information for, you're going to see the value or price, at least what I, is known at the moment, or what I paid. Like I'm going to reveal what I paid for my collection behind me. I'm going to talk about the frame that I got from Frame It Easy, exact dimensions and the costs for it. So if you're interested in the exact, like, same thing. Say you want to frame an Endor foil sheet, as Matt talked about, I'll say this is how much that cost me. The dimensions of that sheet, which again have to be exact for the custom framing to fit perfectly. Then some other interesting information, at least for me, like Decipher used PBM Graphics, which is based in Durham, North Carolina, for everything Reflections 1 and before. Everything Enhanced Jabba's Palace / Death Star 2 and after, so like 2000, was Teagle and Little, based in Norfolk, Virginia. So actually closer to Decipher, I think. And then I'll try to put any notes or unique facts for each sheet. So the one at the bottom there is this Hoth sheet that I just showed you in the frame at the moment. So like it says like uncut sheet, not for resale. Like these are kind of given away as price support. Decipher didn't really sell these. It'll say like who manufactured it, and like the product number is right underneath that. So yeah, we're going to take a quick overview of each one of the sheets.
So look, I just want to say as we get into this is the most research anyone's ever done for a video on this channel. This is quite amazing.
I told Matt like on our like messages before this, like I am nerding out, man. Like this is a lot. So
this is incredible.
I'll give a link to Matt for the slide deck so you can see it. It looks like there's some formatting errors there, but on the value section, if it's available on eBay, I linked to the actual like place to get it. So Light Side and Dark Side for Premiere, $85 each on eBay through Wild Things Games. Those links are valid. Those work. If you want to go look at those. Again, I'm not an ambassador or anything, but I visited Wild Things Games in person. They're great guys, and was able to like, just take them in my car and come home because I live in Portland, Oregon. So these ones, Premier, are big. These are huge sheets. They are 13 cards across, 12 high. That means the frames are expensive. So just so you know, right? Like if you want a Premier frame, it's about $185 to frame it. It's actually metal rather than wood. You can't like get a wood frame that size online ordering. You have to like get this metal frame and kind of assemble it yourself, put it together. So about 33 inches wide, 42 inches high. This is, just a gigantic sheet. The unique part of this, which I think is really interesting, is that there's Decipher seals stamped on the back of each one. And so, Matt, if you can make me nice and big again, I want to show you. This is from the personal collection of our friend Cam McMillan. So he said I could show these off. This is something that he just did on his own time. Was he bought a sheet of Darkside, like Premier Rares, which I had said like, hey, these have these seals on the back, and then tried to use like the best of his ability, cut them up. And so this is a Devastator, right? And I wanted to show you like it's kind of, you can see the bend already. And on the backside, like I put it really close. It's sort of hard to see. You see, there's a little circle like right here, right there. There's a stamp. There's a seal on the backside, which makes it really unplayable. The light side have these too, but it's more visible on dark. But Cam did a really awesome job, and this is again just for his personal collection. He's not reselling these or anything like that. He just sent us out to a few of his friends, and I happened to end up with the Devastator. But like right away, this is not. I mean, you would immediately be able to tell, and he did like a lot of practicing. You'd be able to tell that this is a uncut sheet card, right? It's just more squarish. It feels, guys, just different than a regular card. So like, yeah, don't buy an uncut sheet to try to cut it up. It's just not likely to be able to done. So anyways, this is the first one that has this stamp on the backside. It has a seal. I heavily edited that one that's in the middle there to sort of show that they do appear on the light side too, but you have to be able to like, have it under the exact right light. I think Randy from Wild Things Games talked to me about this at one point. He said, these were intended again as like prize support, like just giveaway sort of deals. And so Decipher made this as like a stamped official collectible sort of item. And so, yeah, if you want a stamped sheet, and each one of the cards has that stamp on it, by the way, it's not just like one time, it appears every time on every card. Then yeah, get an uncut sheet of Premier Light Side, Dark Side.
It's just for Premier though. It's
just for Premier. Yep,
okay.
Just for Premier.
That's
Premier. Let's go to A New Hope.
All right.
So A New Hope is again very similar size and almost identical, like a little bit smaller, I think, than Premier, but about $47 on Wild Things Games. That's for the light side. The dark side hasn't appeared in like 2.5 years on eBay and Facebook groups. Just really do not come up. So I think that'd be worth a lot more than 47 if a dark side surface. Again, it has to be a metal frame from Frame It Easy, so at 185. Basically, you're paying more for framing than the card sheet itself is worth, right? So like that is something that is sort of typical here. And then last sheet to be 13 cards across, 12 high. The pattern of cards, I want you to kind of note here, guys, like it's really easy to identify where the cards appear in the sheet. So like, the really obvious ones, right? Like a tags seeker. So you can see that repeats pretty commonly, or Kithx, right? Like where it is in the sheet makes it like somewhat easy to track. Okay, this is where that card appeared. Here's what possibly would come next in the order there. So there's people that have, made guides or whatever to opening boxes and maybe able to track down, okay, well, this is likely the next card that you're going to see there. And so buying just random packs from booster boxes that have been searched or whatever sometimes it's not a good proposition if people know what they're doing in terms of the actual layout of the boxes due to the sheets.
Yeah, I mean that'd be a fun, albeit expensive project to try to just map a box for a video, right? Just like, okay, this is once we crack, you just
right.
Yeah, I think at this point all the booster packs are essentially so random that are in the wild. I don't think there's too many that have been
that's probably true. That's probably true. Unless you buy like a sealed box, which right.
Yeah.
Let's go on to Hoth.
Okay.
So Hoth sheets, undetermined in terms of value. I will say that I paid $250 recently for the dark side sheet, which I showed you earlier. The Hoth light side sheet, #1 target for sure. Again, please, if you know anyone with that light side backs or dark side backs, please let me know. These sheets are very small, like much smaller. This is actually the smallest sheet that Decipher made for Star Wars CCG. It's 10 cards wide by 8 cards tall. It's also the first time that we have blank cards on a sheet, as you can see in the upper corner, in which, again, I have this sort of here, right? This corner right here is just completely blank. This is a card that, isn't anything. And so I'm wondering why they did that, why they chose to manufacture that. But why not turn a rare 1, which again appears one time on that half of the sheet, into an R2 and save money? I'm sure like there was some logic behind that, but the blanks apparently did make them the packs, and so they become sort of collectibles items. This is my like one of my blank light side cards, right? This is also probably the only place that you can get a blank lights, or you can get a blank white card from a rare. Like, I do think that there are some unlimited sheets for Premiere and A New Hope that have blank card slots that are white like this. But in terms of a blank possible white, all white card, I think it's likely just Hoth that these come from. So the white blank cards, collector's item, like I said, are, I think, more rare than the blank dark side card.
That's correct. I'm still missing
black.
the blank white ones for light side and dark, and I just don't really care enough to spend $300 or something.
Yeah, they're
I don't care that much. But I think
yeah, they're kind of pricey for sure. Let's go on to Dagobah.
All right.
So Dagobah, value again undetermined. Neither of those have appeared on eBay or Facebook in at least 2.5 years. I'm still searching for dark side Dagobah. I'm gonna, I think, acquire light side soon, and so I'll show off that. I think the frame was likely $82. That's what the Hoth frame was, or around that. If I didn't mention that last time. And then interesting about Dagobah, on the bottom right corner there, you can see there are some Yoda cards on the uncut sheet, which were printed with a very small mark right there that you can tell that it's Yoda. And there's like, from browsing on eBay, sometimes you see these where you can see the mark. I don't think people will pot up on that. That like, if you were, I don't know, handling these in a deck with, no sleeves or anything, no backing, you'd be able to tell pretty much right away that was a Yoda, because that's the only card that has in the entire Star Thing. Some of our friends call this a bug mark, like something got onto the printer there. So I'll be curious, like, does a light side Dagobah sheet show the uncut, like the mark of a Yoda? Again, I should be getting one sometime soon, and so I'll be looking forward to seeing that. But same sort of format as Hoth, where it's the 8x10, but there's no blank cards in Dagobah. So they have managed to correct that. But you can't see, right, that the rares appear in exactly the same order every time, with Yoda being that bottom corner that repeats twice. Cloud City. Yeah, let's talk quickly about Cloud City. No records at all of Cloud City light side or dark side rare images. They're probably 10x8, but like we just don't have that. They're very easy to acquire common sheets on eBay, like $20. Like those are all over the place. But if you have a Cloud City rare sheets, like the Players Committee and I, we would love to see that just for documentation purposes. That's the section of the encyclopedia it is right now. Obviously, if you'd be up for selling that, also please let me know. But Cloud City is just not out there. It's just like one of those sort of mysteries of what happened to that. There's uncut sheet buyers like that are even a higher level than I am, and none of them have seen it either. So like it probably just doesn't exist. But if we find one, yeah, that would be awesome. Be great to see the layout. Let's move on to Jabba's Palace. So these ones are actually probably the cheapest rare sheets you can buy. They're currently on eBay for $60, only sold together, both light side and dark side. The frame for that, just in case you're curious, is $82. So again, you're paying more for the frame than you would be for the sheets. But if you're like, hey, I want a smaller piece that's easy to acquire, this is probably the one that you're going to go to, because it's like the smallest sheet you can buy easily and frame. And this is maybe the first time the placement isn't super predictable. Like they have changed the location of some of the planets in each one. However, the mains like Princess Leia Organa and R2, those are in the same places. So again, possibly somewhat easier to map. But some of the variation appears here as opposed to Dagobah and Hoth on those style sheets. Okay, special edition is next in the order here. The dark side is available for 131 on Wild Things. The light side, like I said at the top of the show, actually comes up on this auction from the seller in UK. Some are, regularly anywhere from 216 to 1550. I should also mention these are the current Players Committee incentive rare sheets. If you donate $500 to the Players Committee within this donation timeline, I think it's up until March or more, you'll be randomly assigned a special edition sheet, either dark side or light side. And so if you're thinking about that, like obviously highly encourage you to donate if possible as a players committee. They do awesome work in keeping the game alive. And one of the things that you would get as a part of that $500 donation is a special edition uncut sheet. The light side one is showing there. This one costs about $110 to frame with that framing that I mentioned previously. And then I'll also mention this is the return of the blank card. Like, we don't see blank cards in Cloud City or Jabba's Palace. And so, basically, you kind of don't see that. You also you see that for the first time here. You also have this 11 by 11 grid, which from pretty much now on, except for indoor and reflections, that's what the sheets are going to be. Decipher really standardize that. So let's go on to indoor. There seem to be a few of these floating around, potentially due to players committee and donor incentive programs in the past. I think that's probably why I have 2 extra light side at the moment in terms of, me just acquiring sheets from collections. I'd say the value of these probably 100 to 250 each, somewhere within that range. There's really no eBay comparisons the last 2.5 years. Much more rare than indoor foil sheets, I should say. Like, really, the indoor foil sheets very easy to acquire. The rare sheets much more difficult. $82 to frame. And then I wanted to just note for this one, the vendor's PBM graphics, the job is 79361.3. And the next one, if you go to Matt, is 79361.4. So the foil sheets, like, the reason why this is points and like orders is like you can tell when these were manufactured and by who. And so, like, again, PBM graphics manufactures the non-foil sheets. The foil sheets are part of that. This is what Matt and I are talking about. If you want a Star Wars on CCG uncut sheet that's going to look beautiful and like is most bang for your buck, this is really what I would go for. There have been, I looked at this on eBay, 177 of these sold the last 2 years on eBay. So, like, clearly there's a lot of them out there. It's the first Decipher foil sheet that was made. And they have this really, it's like, if you guys know Endor, like, that those foils are like specially, like, really bright, like the entire card is foiled basically, whereas Reflections is only parts of it. This is also the first sheet that's only 10 by 10. But if you're looking to acquire this, right, the frame is probably about $90 now. I think it's a little bit more expensive now. It's not 2020 when I bought mine, but this is what got me into it. I should say, like, right off, like, I bought this sheet for my daughter when she was born. Her name is Leia. My name's, again, Luke. And so I wanted a Daughter of Skywalker foil in her nursery and be like, yeah, you're the Daughter of Skywalker. And once we got our basement, I was like, well, okay, I'm going to move that down to the basement. I should think about all the other ones. So this was my bang for the buck to start with too. I was like, this is perfect. Like, it's sort of cheap, looks great, framed. And yeah, just really awesome to look at. So I would encourage, if you want to get into it, this is a really easy one. Again, the links are valid in the slide deck there.
That is the most wholesome thing I've heard in all day. So,
yeah. All right. Let's talk a little bit about premium sets. I'm going to have a lot more information of these coming up because I think there's a bigger set that I'm going to acquire soon. But sort of how much are these worth? Who knows? Like, I got these as part of a larger collection. The frame is the same frame as Special Edition and lots of others where it's about 110. This is really like the end of the PBM graphics jobs for Decipher when they move to a different one. Still has that blank card in the top, but premium sets like, Jabba's Palace sealed deck or enhanced Premiere. Like, if you have an enhanced Premiere, we'd like to see that because I haven't seen a photo of that. But like enhanced Jabba's Palace, like those ones are what we're talking about when we say premium sets. And so, yeah, I'll be curious to see a little bit more information when that comes out.
I just want to say visually, this is very pleasing having all of the cards sort of, diagonal, right? It's visually, I'm just like almost mesmerized by.
Yeah, it's interesting because like the premium sets, there's just very limited amount of cards. And so you have the same exact order. It is also interesting that they decided to print the objectives all on one sheet here, right? So you can see that the dark side objective actually appears on the light side sheet. They started doing this near the end of the run because they didn't for Special Edition. They started doing this at the end of the run to save money on printing costs. So it's like, well, if you want to print double-sided stuff, like why not put like all the stuff that's actually double-sided rather than just the blank like template of the dark side card back? Put that all on one sheet. And so I think they saved some printing money. At least that's what Jim Colson said. And I definitely trust his word when it comes to this.
Yeah.
The Reflection 1 foils comes after that. So last sales for this on eBay were 2021 of August. The light side sheet went for $283, dark side for $281, so right around the same price. I recently, the last few months, paid $350 for a light side sheet with an ultra rare Luke and $275 for a dark side sheet with ultra rare Vader. This is, importantly, everybody, the only set that has two different layouts of sheets. So there's one with like the ultra rare foil. There's only, it appears once, but there's like another light side sheet that has Yoda, for example. Like this sheet doesn't have Yoda. So like the Reflections one is the only time in all of Star Wars CCG where there's two separate uncut sheets for the same set, like that is like rares, right? So rare foils or whatever. This sheet, really hard to find. Looks, again, beautiful. Sort of like the Endor foils. This is like really one of my most prized sheets. And last CCG, last Star Wars CCG produced by PBM Graphics before they moved to Teagle and Little, as I said up front. But yeah, the frame was about $100, 95 or so. Yeah, let's talk about Death Star 2. This is one of those ones that, again, is really easy to find on eBay. But I should point out that, like, even though it's $360 on eBay, the data behind the scenes say that there's only been one sale in the last 2 years, that price point. So when I say like elasticity of demand, like I think that's probably priced too high to actually move those sheets at the moment. But like, again, when I got into this, I was like, hey, that's really available. Luke Skywalker Jedi Knight is my favorite card of all time. Like, I'm going to, make that investment into buying this. The dark side, though, hasn't been seen on eBay or on Facebook the last 2.5 years. So it's really hard to say what the value of that is as well. If you buy the sheet on eBay, it's going to cost you about $110 to frame using the Frame It Easy link that I said. It's also the first Teagle and Little ones. And then I want to talk about this briefly because I think this is somewhat interesting just for collectors in general, right? So we all know that Death Star 2 is ultra rares, like Luke Skywalker, Jedi Knight, and Emperor Palpatine. Those appear twice on the sheets, where all the other rares appear 3 times. However, I don't think people typically know that there are some rares that appear 4 times and thus are less rare. So those are strike planning. Like if you look in the upper left corner of the Death Star 2 sheet there, that's strike planning. That appears 4 times. So you're twice as likely to pull a strike planning than you are an ultra rare Luke Skywalker, right? And then You Must Confront Vader is the Jedi test. That's also appears 4 times. And then on the dark side sheet, it's Flagship Operations, and that thing's operational, which is an epic event. Those appear 4 times. You're just more likely to pull those. That last like upper corner, which again was blank in special edition, they kind of solved the problem there of a blank card by just like putting another card in that's less rare than all the other rares. So if you notice, like, hey, I seem to have much more of these than my other rares. Well, the reason why is the uncut sheet actually has more of those. So more are in existence. And that is an issue that continues all the way on to the end of this Star Wars CCG run. And we'll talk a little bit more about that.
It's notable to me that it's also like crappy rares.
Yeah, exactly. Like you don't really
put like the home one there. They put like, strike plan.
Yeah, obviously if they put home run there, that
Flagship Operations is particularly abusive because it was also in the third anthology as a fixed one quarter card. So like everybody has 40 copies and it's
yeah, terrible. Let's move on to Reflections 2, which comes after that. So I would say these are, in terms of value, very expensive. The last time I was able to track down any information about this was that a light side, dark side premium sheet set, I think, went for $1,500 last year on Facebook, on the Facebook group. So this is on eBay. The frame, I think it's 11 by 11. I know it's 11 by 11, but so I'm thinking it's probably about $110. The ones that are interesting on this is the first and possibly only time that we have foil blanks. So you see that like upper corner up the top there, right? There's the box toppers or case toppers, and then there's like a blank at the very top sheets. And so there's these small galaxy marks. Matt, if you want to zoom in on me again, this is a light side foil blank, which again has a little bit of bend to it, but see that tiny foil like galaxy mark? The Players Committee Encyclopedia, Collector's Encyclopedia, actually talks about this as like foil like galaxy marks. And so this is the light side foil blank, right? I actually don't have a dark side. If someone has a dark side foil blank, I'd be happy to, try to acquire that from you. But that's like possibly the only time that we have foil blanks there. The other things I would say is that for the premiums, again, we have this issue of where some cards appear more times than others. Like, for example, Luke Skywalker, Rebel Scout, and the Emperor appear more than Corran Horn and Guri. Luke Skywalker, Rebel Scout, and the Emperor is like the opposite issue of flagship operations and that's operational, like those are mains or premiums, but your odds of pulling those are higher than Corn Horn or Guri, for example. So sort of an imbalance in terms of how much the premiums are actually rare there. Okay, Tatooine, the value on this dark-sided one auction last 2.5 years on eBay. That went for 150 November 2022. No sales in the last 2.5 years on eBay or on Facebook. I did acquire mine as part of the larger collection, which is like hard to price out because there's like a bunch more to it. This is where we have alternate images. Example, Obi-Wan Kenobi, Padawan Learner. That appears 6 times non-AI, but 2 times the alternate image. Again, we have this problem of this extra rare, though. So all the other rares appear 8 times. Like, again, Obi-Wan Kenobi, Padawan Learner appears a total of 8 times, but 2 of those 8 are AIs. The exception is on both sides, Boonta Eve Pod Race appears 9 times. So that is less rare than every other rare in Tatooine.
Everyone loves pod racing.
All right, last few here as we get to the end of the sets. So Coruscant, the value on this, I think a fair amount of money. My best guess is probably about $500 in the market at the moment. The only people that I know have had these recently have been acquired through like Players Committee sanctioned tournaments that have won them. And so, just hard to acquire. They haven't been on eBay. No other sales here. I think I'll land likely probably about $110 to frame. We'll see. I'm getting, I think, a collection coming in soon, which I'll have some of these. This is where AIs continue. However, I want to make the point here, and probably most people know this, Coruscant AIs are insanely hard to pull. They appear 1 time on the Uncut sheet. These are like rarer than the ultra rares in Death Star 2 because they're just more like rares than Tatooine. So like it's just a much harder pull. It's basically like pulling an ultra rare foil to pull like a Reflections 1 ultra rare. Kind of, you want to think about that. Like it appears like Luke Skywalker appears once on that sheet, like one of those. Probably not as hard to pull, but like really, really high up there. So challenging. All the other rares appear 4 times, with again the exception of Coruscant, Jedi Council Chamber, and Dioxis, which both appear 5. So both of those are less rare than every other rare that exists in those sets.
All right, our last couple here.
Last couple, Reflections 3, the premiums. The foils, by the way, just aren't available. Again, I'd like to see that. I think they're probably about $200. That's how much I paid on a Facebook group auction. A DS, a Dark Side one, also went for $200 in a group auction a couple years ago. And this is when they started printing all those objectives again on the one sheet, save on printing costs. The premiums appear either 2 or 3 times. Most of the mains on the sheet 3 times. However, like Forced Push, which is like a pretty powerful card, actually only appears twice. So Forced Push is rarer than most of the other mains on this. And again, a Reflections 3 foil sheet, like Cloud City, just we don't have image of. If that ever surfaced, that would be worth a lot of money. And then the last one, Theed Palace, which when I say last means in production, like people probably know, like Reflections 3 had Theed Palace cards, but like Theed Palace wasn't actually produced until after Reflections 3. So the only sale of this in the last 2 years was $500 for the light side sheet in November. I do know of a dark side sheet that was perfect recently privately, not of my own, but it was $600. I did purchase the light side common uncommon, which is all in one sheet for $155 in June 2023. This is the last one. Again, they continue to print objectives on the light side sheet. And this is also the first time that objectives are uncommons. There's 40 rares for each side. They each appear 6 times, except for AIs, which appear twice. So not as rare as Coruscant. The non-AIs are 4 times. And the last one for you all to know, Naboo Celebration, the light side, and Master Destroyers each appear 7 times. So all of those, like those 2, are less rare than all the other rares.
2 more crappy ones. I mean, they're okay. They're just very situational. But
yeah.
Well, this has been incredibly insightful, and I appreciate this sort of additional insight into how often the cards appear on a sheet, because I think that does show us that as these packs were cut, I would love to see a video of how sheets were cut and packs are assembled. That'd be a fascinating watch, but not all rares are created equal, I think, in this case, as far as the rarity at least.
Yeah, for sure. And again, like we know about limited print runs at the end there with Coruscant and somewhat Theed 2, and it kind of makes sense why it's like those AIs or Coruscant are just so hard to find.
Yeah. This has been a lot of fun, Luke. Very, very insightful. A lot to learn. I think we're gonna have a follow up probably when you get some more stuff in. This
Yep.
has been sort of a great overview, everything you need to know about Uncut Sheets. So thanks for tuning in, everybody, and we'll catch you next time.
Talk to you later. Bye.